The Wise Owl's Library, a reading adventure for the forest friends. Once upon a time, in a lush, green forest filled with all sorts of animals, there was a small community that lived in harmony with one another. The forest was home to cheerful squirrels, playful rabbits, wise owls, and many other creatures who spent their days exploring, playing, and learning from each other. One day, a group of animals, led by a curious rabbit named Rosie, discovered an old, abandoned treehouse in the heart of the forest. The treehouse was hidden away behind a thick curtain of ivy, waiting to be discovered. As the animals climbed up the sturdy ladder, they found a treasure trove of strange, magical objects, including a television. They had never seen anything like it before, and their curiosity was piqued. The animals decided to bring the television back to their village, where they set it up in the community center. They gathered around it, watching in awe as the screen flickered to life, filling the room with colorful images and captivating sounds. News of the magical television spread quickly throughout the forest, and soon, animals from all corners came to see the wonder for themselves. As days turned into weeks, the forest friends became more and more enchanted by the television, spending hours upon hours watching shows and movies. They began to neglect their daily activities, such as playing outside, exploring the forest, and sharing stories with one another. Even Rosie, the adventurous rabbit who had found the television, found herself captivated by the screen's allure. In their television-induced haze, the animals started to forget about their chores and responsibilities. The squirrel siblings, Sammy and Susie, were so engrossed in a cartoon that they completely forgot to collect acorns for the winter. Instead, they would try to imitate the antics of the characters they saw on the screen, like attempting to ride on each other's backs or trying to balance a stack of acorns on their heads, only for the acorns to come tumbling down, much to their amusement. Meanwhile, Benny the Beaver had become so preoccupied with a home improvement show that he neglected his dam building duties. One day, Benny decided to build an extravagant, multi-level dam with a built-in water slide, inspired by the TV show. He worked tirelessly on his masterpiece, but without considering the practicality of his design, the dam collapsed in a comical splatter of mud and twigs, leaving the other animals in fits of laughter. The community's vegetable garden, usually tended to by a diligent group of rabbits, was now overrun with weeds and overgrown plants. Instead of tending to their duties, the rabbits would hold hilarious weed fashion shows, dressing up in the most ridiculous weeds they could find and strutting down makeshift runways made from twigs. Oliver, a wise old owl who lived in a hollow tree, observed the change in the animals' behavior with growing concern. He had always been a lover of books and stories, and he knew the importance of reading and the power of imagination. Worried that the animals were spending too much time watching television and not enough time engaging in other important activities, Oliver decided to take action. Determined to encourage the animals to rediscover their love for reading, Oliver devised a plan to transform the old treehouse into a library filled with books of all kinds. He gathered books from his own collection and asked other wise animals from neighboring forests to donate books as well. Soon, the treehouse was filled with shelves of enchanting stories, captivating tales, and fascinating facts, just waiting to be discovered. Oliver invited the animals to visit the new library, which he named the Wise Owl's Library. Slowly but surely, the forest friends began to make their way to the library, drawn in by the enticing titles and colorful covers of the books. As they opened the pages and began to read, the animals found themselves transported to magical lands, learning about far-off places, and laughing at the antics of the characters in the stories. Sammy and Susie, the squirrel siblings, found a book about clever animals who used their wits to outsmart predators, and they were inspired to use their own intelligence to solve problems around the forest. Benny the Beaver discovered a book on engineering and architecture, which taught him new techniques for building stronger, more practical dams that still had a touch of whimsy. The rabbits, who once spent their days hosting weed fashion shows, found a book about gardening and botany, and they were soon back to tending the community garden with newfound enthusiasm. They learned about different plants and how to care for them, turning the once overgrown garden into a thriving, beautiful space filled with flowers and fresh vegetables. As the animals spent more time reading and less time watching television, they rediscovered the joys of exploring their forest, playing together, and using their imaginations. They would share their favorite stories with one another and act out scenes from the books they read. The forest became alive with laughter, creativity, and a newfound appreciation for the power of reading. One day, the animals decided to host a celebration in honor of their beloved library and its wise creator, Oliver the Owl. They gathered in the community center, which had been transformed into a cozy reading nook, with plush pillows and soft blankets for curling up with a good book. They took turns sharing their favorite stories and the lessons they had learned from them, expressing their gratitude to Oliver for opening their eyes to the wonders of the written word. As the sun set and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the forest friends sat around a crackling bonfire, listening to Oliver read one last story aloud. With each word, their imaginations soared, and they knew that they had discovered something truly magical in the pages of the books that filled their library. From that day on, the animals in the forest continued to cherish the gift of reading and the adventures it brought into their lives. They knew that while television had its place, it was no match for the power of a good book and the boundless world of imagination it could unlock. And so, the forest friends lived happily ever after, their hearts filled with stories and their minds bursting with knowledge and creativity. And so, the forest community found a perfect balance between the magic of the television and the enchanting world of books. The animals took turns organizing weekly events, alternating between movie nights and reading circles. The forest friends learned to appreciate the unique joy that each form of entertainment brought to their lives. As the seasons changed, so did the themes of the events. In autumn, the animals would gather to read stories about the harvest and the changing leaves, and they'd watch movies about the adventures that took place amidst the vibrant colors of the forest. During the winter months, they'd snuggle up in the cozy community center, sharing tales of snow-covered wonderlands and watching heartwarming movies that celebrated the spirit of the season. In spring, the animals would explore the revitalized forest, inspired by the stories of new beginnings they had read. They'd organize outdoor movie nights under the blossoming trees, projecting the films onto a large, makeshift screen. Summer brought with it stories of sunny days and beach adventures, as well as outdoor movie screenings beneath the starry night sky. With each passing season, the forest friends grew closer and wiser, embracing the unique lessons and experiences that both books and television had to offer. They learned that balance was the key to a fulfilling life, and they made sure to pass this wisdom on to the younger generations. The forest continued to flourish, filled with the laughter and creativity of its inhabitants. Children and adults alike would gather around the wise old owl, Oliver, eager to hear his stories and wisdom. They would ask him questions about the books they read and the movies they watched, and they would listen intently as he shared his insights and encouraged them to think critically about the stories they consumed. As the years passed, the Wise Owl's library became a beacon of knowledge and imagination, attracting visitors from far and wide. Animals from other forests would come to borrow books, share stories, and join in the community events. It wasn't long before the message of the power of reading and the importance of balance spread far beyond the borders of the forest, touching the lives of countless animals and inspiring them to embark on their own literary adventures. And thus, the legacy of the Wise Owl's library and the enchanting world of books continued to grow, bringing joy, wisdom, and a sense of unity to all who were fortunate enough to stumble upon its magic. The forest friends lived a life filled with adventure, laughter, and the kind of happiness that can only come from the perfect balance of stories, shared experiences, and the love of a tight-knit community. As the reputation of the Wise Owl's library spread, it became a hub of learning and creativity for animals from all walks of life. The forest community embraced this newfound role, creating spaces for workshops, art classes, and storytelling sessions. The Treehouse Library expanded over time, with new sections dedicated to different subjects, as well as cozy reading nooks for the animals to relax and lose themselves in the pages of a good book. With Oliver's guidance, the animals began to organize educational events and activities for the younger generations. The young ones would participate in book clubs, where they would discuss their favorite stories and characters, enhancing their critical thinking and communication skills. Art classes were held, allowing the children to express themselves through painting, drawing, and sculpting, inspired by the tales they read. The forest community even started a small theater group, where the animals would come together to act out their favorite scenes from books and movies. This not only allowed the animals to explore their creativity, but it also fostered a strong sense of teamwork and camaraderie among the performers. Over time, the forest became known for its rich culture, with animals from neighboring communities coming to attend the events and learn from the wise and creative creatures who called it home. The spirit of sharing and collaboration thrived, as animals from different backgrounds and species worked together to create something truly magical. As the years passed, the forest friends grew old, but their passion for stories and learning never waned. They passed down their love for reading and the arts to their children and grandchildren, ensuring that the legacy of the Wise Owls Library would live on for generations to come. The once abandoned treehouse had become a symbol of hope and inspiration, reminding everyone of the power of imagination, the importance of balance, and the unbreakable bonds that can be formed through shared experiences and stories. And so, the forest continued to thrive, filled with the laughter, creativity, and wisdom of its inhabitants. The animals lived long, fulfilling lives, surrounded by friends, family, and the enchanting world of stories that they had come to cherish. Together, they built a legacy that would be remembered for years to come, proving that the power of reading and the magic of imagination are timeless treasures that can bring endless joy and inspiration to those who embrace them. The end.